You're burning through firewood like it's infinite. It's not. Every log you feed to that fire is an hour of chopping, hauling, and drying you'll have to repeat tomorrow. Every flame that licks the bottom of your pot is fuel you can't get back, smoke that marks your position, light that attracts attention you don't want. And here's the brutal math nobody talks about. Cooking a pot of beans the traditional way, keeping it at a rolling boil for 2 hours, burns enough wood to heat your shelter for an entire night. You're choosing between hot food and not freezing, between calories in the pot and calories your body spends gathering more fuel. It's a losing equation, and most people don't realize they're losing until the woodpile is gone and winter isn't. But your great-grandmother knew something you forgot. Your ancestors in every cold climate on Earth figured this out centuries ago. And during World War II, when fuel rationing turned cooking into a strategic calculation, entire nations rediscovered a technology so simple, so effective, so stupidly obvious that you'll be angry nobody told you sooner. It's called a Haybox, and it's going to cook your dinner while you sleep, using heat you've already paid for. Let me explain why this works, because once you understand the physics, you'll never look at cooking the same way again. When you boil a pot of food, you're not actually cooking with fire. You're cooking with heat. The fire's only job is to get the water to 100 degrees Celsius and keep it there. But here's what most people miss. Food doesn't care where that heat comes from. It doesn't know if it's sitting over a flame or wrapped in a blanket. Beans don't have opinions about your fuel source. They just need sustained temperature. The magic number is 180 degrees. Above that threshold, proteins denature, starches gelatinize, collagen breaks down. Cooking happens. Below that, bacterial growth becomes a concern. So your mission is simple. Get the food boiling hot, then keep it above 180 degrees long enough for the cooking to finish. A well-insulated container does exactly that. You bring your pot to a full boil on the fire, 10 minutes, maybe 15. Then you transfer it to a box stuffed with insulation. The heat trapped in the food and liquid has nowhere to go. It can't escape through the thick walls of hay or blankets you've packed around it. So it stays, and while it stays, it cooks. A pot that starts at 212 degrees inside a proper haybox will still be above 180 degrees 6 to 8 hours later. That's not a typo. 8 hours of cooking from 15 minutes of fire. This isn't theoretical. This isn't some prepper fantasy cooked up on a survival forum. This is documented history, tested under conditions far worse than anything you're imagining. When World War II rationed fuel across Europe, cooking became a logistical nightmare. In Britain, gas and electricity were allocated by strict quotas. Families had to choose between heating their homes and cooking their meals. Sound familiar? The British government responded by promoting Haybox cooking. The Ministry of Food published pamphlets, newspapers ran how-to guides, and suddenly a technique dismissed as old-fashioned became a patriotic duty. Cook wisely, save fuel for victory. But Britain wasn't inventing anything new. They were remembering. Norwegian immigrants had brought fireless cookers to America in the 1800s. German households called them Kochkiste, cooking boxes. The technology was ancient. The war just made it necessary again. And it worked. Families reported cutting their cooking fuel by 70 to 80%. Stews that would have burned gas for 3 hours instead used 15 minutes of flame and 8 hours of patience. You can build one from garbage. You don't need specialized equipment. You need a box, insulation, and a pot with a tight-fitting lid. That's it. Start with the container. A wooden crate is perfect. A sturdy cardboard box works if you double or triple the walls. An old cooler with a broken seal, a metal trunk, even a hole dug in the ground lined with stones. Its only job is to hold insulation in place. Now, the insulation. Hay is traditional, but you're not limited. You need material that traps air. Dry leaves work. Crumpled newspaper works beautifully and is everywhere. Old blankets, worn-out clothing, wool scraps, even dry grass stuffed tight. The key word is dry. Wet insulation conducts heat instead of trapping it. Your haybox is useless if it's damp. Keep it dry, keep it fluffy, keep it thick. Line the bottom of your container with at least 4 inches of insulation. 6 is better. Pack it down slightly to form a stable nest for your pot. Then stuff insulation around all sides, leaving a pot-sized hollow in the center. The lid is critical. You need a thick cushion that sits directly on top of the pot. A pillow, a folded blanket, a cloth bag stuffed with more newspaper. This is what most people skimp on, and it's why their haybox fails. Heat rises. If you leave the top thin, all that precious thermal energy floats straight up and disappears. Finally, the pot. It needs a heavy, tight-fitting lid. Cast iron is ideal. It holds heat like a battery. Thick stainless steel is good. A Dutch oven is perfect. A thin aluminum camping pot will lose heat too fast. Here's the process. Prepare your ingredients as normal. Anything that requires long simmering is a candidate. If you're doing beans or tough grains, an overnight soak reduces cooking time dramatically. Don't skip the soak in a survival situation. Time is free, fuel is not. Bring your pot to a full rolling boil over your fire. Not a simmer, a real boil. This is the only time you're using fuel, so make it count. Boil for 10 to 15 minutes. Now, move fast. Every second between the fire and the box bleeds heat. Have your haybox open and ready. Grab that screaming hot pot and transfer it directly into the nest you made. Don't remove the lid. Don't check it. Trust the process. Immediately pack any loose insulation around the sides, filling every gap. Place your thick cushion on top of the pot lid, then close the container and walk away. That's it. The fire goes out, the smoke stops, the light disappears, and inside that box, dinner is cooking itself while you sleep or stand watch or do literally anything else. Rice needs about an hour in the haybox. Pre-soaked beans, 3 to 4 hours. Unsoaked beans need 8 hours or more. Start them at night, eat them for breakfast. Stews with tough meat need 6 to 8 hours. The slow, gentle heat makes it more tender than aggressive boiling ever could. Here's the critical safety rule. Food must stay above 140 degrees Fahrenheit to prevent bacterial growth. A properly built haybox does this for 8 to 10 hours. But if you open the lid to check, you lose heat. If your insulation is thin, you lose heat. The solution is simple. When in doubt, reboil. If you're uncertain about the temperature, put the pot back on the fire for 5 minutes and bring it to a rolling boil again. You've just killed any bacteria that might have grown. This reboil technique also lets you extend cooking indefinitely. Morning boil, haybox all day. Evening reboil, haybox all night. The toughest meat on earth will surrender to that schedule. Do the math with me. A typical survival fire requires 4 to 6 hours of burn time daily just for cooking. That's a huge pile of wood. Switch to a haybox and your fire time drops to 1 hour or less. Less wood consumed means less time foraging. Less smoke means less detection. The fuel savings compound over time. What looks like a small efficiency gain on day 1 becomes the difference between thriving and starving by week 3. And there's the psychological benefit. Coming back to camp after a long day, lifting the lid on a haybox and finding hot, ready-to-eat food. That's not just calories, that's morale. That's the feeling that you're not just surviving, you're winning. Your great-grandmother didn't have a gas stove. She had a wood fire, a limited supply of fuel, and a family to feed through winters that killed the unprepared. She knew things you don't. She knew that fire was precious and patience was free. She knew that technology doesn't require electricity. It requires understanding how the physical world actually works. She knew that the best solutions are often the oldest ones, abandoned not because they stopped working, but because cheap energy made us lazy. That cheap energy is a historical anomaly, a century-long blip in 10,000 years of human cooking. And when the blip ends, when the grid fails, when the gas stops flowing, the old ways will matter again. The haybox is waiting.
It's made of garbage and patience and the accumulated wisdom of every ancestor who ever stretched a cord of wood through a long winter. Build one tonight. Stuff it with crumpled newspaper and test it with a pot of rice. Feel the temperature with your hand 6 hours later and understand, truly understand, that you've been burning wood for nothing. The fire is a tool. The Haybox makes that tool work harder. And in a world where every resource counts, where the margin is thinner than anyone wants to admit, working smarter isn't just smart, it's survival.